What's going on, fight fans? It's the Vulture here with Cage Conversations, and today we have another special guest, none other than MMA competitor Adam Joe.
What's going on? How are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself, brother?
Doing great, doing great.
All right. So first things first, let's get this ball rolling. So who is Adam Joe? What about yourself is something you think is essential for people to know about you?
Yeah, I would say that I don't know, this might be a boring answer. It sounds simplistic, but I'm pretty much a martial artist. That's how I describe myself to every aspect of my life. Obviously I train mixed martial arts, right? But I also own a taekwondo school for kids and families. So literally when I say it's my life, like I do it for my job, I do it for my passion, and I do it to, improve my skills every day. So, it almost is that I'm living, breathing, eating, thinking martial arts on a pretty constant basis.
That's cool, man. So you said you got your own dojo, you said, right?
Yes, sir. Taekwondo school.
Where's that at?
It's in Schaumburg.
Schaumburg? Cool. If
Yeah,
you
I've had
want,
it for 2 years. So yeah, I opened up in 2024. I managed my family school for a while. That's where I started up when I was a kid. But yeah, opened my own place. And since then, it's grown to over 200 students. And yeah, again, for kids and families. So it's been pretty awesome. Pretty crazy journey. I can explain a little bit about that later too. But I've just been very blessed to be able to do what I love, as well as make money doing what I love too.
hey man, that's awesome. If you can do what you love, not only as a job, but as an everyday thing that you live and breathe, I feel like that's when things just start to blossom and flourish, and that's when they become not just wake up, all right, I got to do this, but no, I wake up and I get to do this. I get to do that. I get to shape these young athletes, these young fighters into determined, well-being, disciplined people and lovers of this kind of sport. That's great to see. It's a lot of these coaches fall back in their prime, but to have a coach that's currently fighting and competing while also getting the knowledge into these young bucks, that's something that's really cool. It's really awesome to see.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, and the other thing too is I know that I grew up doing traditional martial arts, but being able to train at a high level with all these high level guys, and to be able to open my own school and do something that I believe has modernized so much, right? As well as keeping obviously the life skills of the martial art, respect, discipline, all that kind of stuff. I think to me has been super important, and so to be able to take that what I've learned and to apply it to the next generation, and to be able to teach them what I know and what I've grown to know has been a huge blessing.
Yeah, man, it's great to hear. A lot of these kids, unfortunately, sometimes they get lost down that path. And I personally, I'm one who believes that martial arts is one of the most disciplinary sports that you can get into. And it's not so much as you'll get punished for what you do wrong. It's kind of more as you see what you did wrong, you understand it, and then you'll learn how to better it so it won't happen again, kind of thing. It keeps your mind off of, every other thing that goes on. And a lot of people just get lost in the sport, and that's how they fall in love with it. It's their scapegoat. And sometimes that's all you need to find out what you really love.
100%.
So you said you've been doing karate and martial arts your entire life. Can you give us a little bit of your backstory and where you're from? What kind of shaped you into the martial arts that you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started Taekwondo when I was 6. Pretty much just like every Korean that you might hear, their families kind of forced them into taking classes at their family school. So that was kind of very similar story with me. I did end up growing to love it and been doing that pretty much my entire life. After a little bit, though, I did that for a long time, and then I realized that I needed to learn some grappling, because obviously the striking is there, but then if I hit the ground, what am I going to do? And so that naturally led me into finding a jiu-jitsu gym over in Schaumburg called LCCT, by Luis Claudio. Incredible. I'm still with him today. Been there almost 10 years. And after a while, the natural next step of progression is, okay, I know striking, I know grappling, then let's just go to MMA where you put everything together. And
Yeah.
so that's where I came across DFS with, Coach Mike Valley, and been with him for many, many years. And yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah, like you said, you've done it all your life, then that in Korea, you stuck with the martial arts, kind of forced upon you. I know what that's like, my older brother Carlos, two older brothers, underneath him. fighting is in our family. I kind of got forced into it. I didn't follow it as much as they did. You know, they gave us a choice, but some people grow to love it. Some people are forced into it because it's what they've come from. Other people force themselves into it because it's what they love. But at the end of the day, you're in it to win it, right? So I mean, if you're there, you got what it takes. Why not?
100%.
So you said you're training at VFS under Coach Mike. You got a good amount of teammates that are at that top level. You got Ignacio Bahamondes, Nick Aguirre, Carlos Hernandez, Juliana Pena, Bilal Muhammad. What kind of feeling does that give to you as a fighter? And what do you take away from those training sessions that you get to share with them?
Yeah, obviously I'm very blessed, not just because VFS head coach Mike Valley is incredible. Learned so much under him, but also like the all the athletes that you just mentioned, right, in the UFC. And I think for me, one of the coolest things is to watch the daily grind. They're not these like exceptional like specimen, right? They're just like the rest of us. The biggest difference is that they put the blood, sweat, and tears. And you get to see that in the practice room, right? And so for me to be able to see that is incredible. But also, I think we're a small team. So it's not like you go to these mega gyms and you see them kind of training off to the side and you're just kind of doing your own thing. Like, we all know each other personally. Like, I can go up to them and, not only do they know me, but they're so willing to, help out. It doesn't matter that, that guys aren't in the UFC or not in the UFC yet, or, wherever you are in your stage of life. Like if you go up to them and say, hey, can I ask you a question? Or, like you pick their brain a little bit, like they're more than happy to help you out. And, we all train together, we all help each other out. And I'm very, inspired by them, but I'm also thankful that we have that kind of camaraderie and team that we're able to keep it small, but, help each other all grow.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you guys are really close. It's a small gym. Sometimes you don't even they need that big amount of people there. It's just what's there, who's there, and how they are when they're there. Like you can kind of describe it as a family. I'll help you with what you need help with, but at the same time, I kind of expect you to help me get better in whatever aspect that I might not see myself or coach or or your other teammates. Everybody's different. Like you said, at the end of the day, we're all human. We all make mistakes. We all have gaps in our game, but that's what we're there for. And if you have a team like you described over at VFS that's always willing to help go that extra step to make sure you're at 100% or at least trying to get you to 100%, I don't think there's anything better you can ask for.
100%.
All right, I'm not a creep, I promise, but I did do a little scrolling on your page. I noticed you did corner a former champion, Juliana Pena. Um, but at the time, she was just a contender. What kind of feeling did that give you as compared to being in the other side of the game?
Yeah, obviously being able to be in the corner has been such an inspiring experience for me. I'm grateful that I was able to have that, and be a part of not just her camp, but her fight. And to be honest, the biggest thing I picked up from being able to do something like that is watching personally how someone at the highest level, two-time bantamweight champion, the effort that she puts in, right? So she tells her story all the time that she didn't throw her first punch at till the age of 19, right? So it's like someone that didn't start till later, right? They're so successful because of the effort she puts in there, no matter the obstacles she has in her life, right? That she's willing to continue to grind, right? I remember in preparation for that Sarah McMahon fight, it was Christmas Day. It was snowing like crazy, as Illinois tends to have the worst weather.
Yeah.
And she's doing like 2.5 hour sessions. And I'm like, man, this is what it takes to be a champion. She, just the way that she grinds and, just the mindset that she has. Cause if you look at if you look at her fight, like, if you look, that mindset never broke, right? She finished her in round 3, with that mindset, with the hard work, with her techniques. And, to me, it was just so inspiring. And, knowing her for the next, 6 years, nothing has really changed. She's incredible. So for me to just get that insight and to be part of that experience and be in the corner for that, was pretty awesome. And, I didn't love flying to Abu Dhabi and getting, quarantined for 48 hours and stuff like that. But, for her and for the team, it was definitely worth it. So.
Yeah, always got to make sacrifices, especially when it comes to your teammates, let alone for yourself. You put your body on the line, you put so much on the line for yourself, and knowing that you got that team that does the same for you, sometimes you get the opportunity to do the same for them. it's glad to see, you got that experience to witness the other side and see that it's more than just what happens in the training room. But it's also nice to see that everything that happens in the training room is showed and displayed in the biggest stage in the world. And that's just something that it's a big inspiration, like you said. And I haven't experienced that myself, but just by the way he talks about it, sounds like something really cool. Happy you got that experience. Now with that, let's shift a little more back to you. I know you did have a fight coming up in September. To my knowledge, it was canceled. How you feeling about that? And do you have any word on a new opponent, or is that just scrapped, or what's up?
Yeah, so I had someone, he pulled out and they were looking for someone else, and I don't think any agreement came to. So, I'm just kind of waiting for the right, um, promotion opportunity, whatnot. And so just, keeping my skills sharp, still learning, still growing. Um, More importantly, just trying to stay healthy, and just making sure that, you know, I don't, I'm the type of person I'll train, you know, every day as hard as I can. But as I'm getting older, I'm realizing, okay, like I can't always do
Right.
that, and my multiple injuries has kind of proven to me, okay, I need to train a little bit smarter, but staying healthy, but staying ready.
That's good. Yeah, because I noticed back in 2021 you were really active. You had a little bit of time off, came back in 2025, you got a first round finish. And now you're coming back a little over a year later. Activity wise, is there like a time frame you want to be like active throughout the year? Or like you said, as you're getting older, our body's a muscle, it's gonna have wear and tear, it's normal. But like is there like an aspect or a certain amount of fights, you plan to have as the years to come, or is it just something, whenever something comes up, you'll take it?
Yeah, great question. So, I was super active in 2021, like you said, and then that last fight, which was for the title, I broke my hand in the first round, and then I kept going the rest of the 4 rounds. So that definitely did not help with the needing the procedure. So I had hand surgery. They put a pin in there. It didn't really heal as properly as it should have. Like it's kind of sticking out, and I kind of felt it during practice. So for a while, I had to kind of like adjust and stuff like that. Since then, I had a 4 year gap because I tore my knee twice. I had a back herniation. It was like a 20 millimeter herniation, which is massive. And I had to get back surgery. And then after back surgery, I tried to come back right away because I'm like, you know what? I'm sick of this 4 year layoff. I
Right.
want to get back in there. But I think I came back a little bit too quickly, even though, thankfully I won that fight. I did get, just working on making sure my back is good, making sure my body's good and healthy. And, just it's a brutal sport. I
Yeah.
love it, but it's part of it's part of what it is, right? So
Yeah.
just making sure that I prioritize my health, but also I want to prioritize my school too, right? So
Yeah.
just making sure that my school is growing, doing well, and once those two are optimized, then I would love to get another fight in and just playing it by ear. But I'm definitely ready. I'm definitely just staying ready for opportunities that might come my way.
Yeah, hearing all those injuries and everything you went through, it sucks. And I'm sorry you had to go through that. I wouldn't wish injuries on anybody because they suck. But, I'm glad to see that thankfully everything worked out for you. It seems like you're coming a little more wise and knowledgeable on your body and understanding when it needs to rest. And you're taking care of yourself, which is great. You want to keep the longevity of your career as long as you can. And by the looks of it, it seems like you're doing a good job. You said you're fit, you're ready, staying active, staying healthy. And it seems like health is a big aspect in your game. So, power to you. Hope it keeps going well for you. And, we hope to see you back out there in the future.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you know, I'm very excited to show everyone. I feel like I'm always getting better. I'm always learning. One of the beauties of martial arts is you always get to develop yourself, right? And so I love being able to show people every single fight what I've learned and how I've grown and how much better I'm getting. So that's one thing that motivates me is that every fight you're going to see a different version, a better version. So yeah, like you said, I'm excited to showcase that whenever that next opportunity presents itself.
So is that what you would say is like your favorite part of, being a competitor is going out there and showcasing your skills and how much you've matured as a fighter? Or is it kind of just like the walkout moment, the spotlight's on you and you get all that attention, the fight preparation, or maybe just the fight itself, maybe putting your hands on somebody makes you feel happy, and that's okay. We all got our things that make us
Yeah.
happy. But what's kind of the one thing that you would say makes you come back time and time again?
Yeah, great question. I mean, to me, I think people that know me will say, I'm not a violent guy. I don't, hurting people is not a motivation of mine. But I'm a very competitive person. Obviously, we both sign on the dotted line. So when we go in there, violence is just part of what we do. But the thing that I love doing, I mean, martial arts again has been my entire life, right? And so as someone that loves martial arts and loves competition, and I mean, frankly, loves winning, right? It's just
Yeah.
kind of natural. I love that when you compete, and when you do martial arts, it's like a chess match, right? They say it's a chess match with dire physical consequences. And I love being able to be cerebral, right? I'm not just out there brawling, right? I get to show like, this is the technical part of martial arts. And,
Right.
I kind of pride myself in being able to be cerebral and be smart about that, but the other thing that's, I love is that when you compete and put yourself out there, right? Not every time it goes your way, right? So, I think MMA is one of the best examples of the better fighter doesn't always win, right? But you can't lie when you're out there, right? When Coach Mike has always mentioned or has said, right, if you're out of shape in the fight, it's going to show. If you didn't put in the work that you needed to, or the recovery you needed to, or the technical work you didn't, or that you needed to, whether it's your grappling or striking, your defense, offense, that's going to show when you fight, right? And there's no hiding from it, right? Anyone can buy a belt and say, hey, I'm this belt or this and that, right? But when you go in there and showcase your skills, that's where you're truly honest with yourself and the rest of the world. And I kind of like that. It's like you're expressing yourself in its truest form, and you can't really hide from that.
Yeah, that's kind of like in comparison to what Dominic Cruz said in his Hall of Fame, induction speech. He's like, I believe he said, and losing in this sport, it's public. There's no hiding from it. There's no running from it. It's going to stick on your record. Anybody's going to see it. Anybody's going to look it up. It's always going to stay with you. But it's not the fact that you lost. It's understanding how you lost and how you can come back even better. And I feel like that's something that kind of relates to you, given, all your setbacks, all your unfortunate events that have happened to you. But you still find that way and will and desire to get back in the cage and train harder, be a little bit more mindful of your wellness and your well-being to be able to put that show out for the people, but more importantly, to be able to express to yourself that you can still do this, that anything is possible as long as you take the right precautions to it.
100%. I think one of the best examples is when I broke my hand. I think everyone likes to say, oh, when push comes to shove, I'm not going to quit, or I'm going to, but I remember my hand exploded, right? And I had half a
Yeah.
second to kind of react to it, and went back to my corner. I said something's wrong with my hand, but to continue on the next 4 rounds, and I didn't win, a split decision loss, but to put on a performance that I thought that I won, but again, not going back to the past about it,
Right.
but I think more importantly, it just shows me that my mental, I'm able to, I was able to show that to myself and to everyone else, that regardless of whatever circumstances, right, that you're able to push yourself. And that's obviously that's the lesson that as a martial artist that you're instilled, and I want to instill that in the next generation. So the fact that I have that in me, is it makes me feel good that that personal experience I can pass on, instead of like, oh, I quit when things got a little bit hard.
Right.
It's
Um, so is there anything that you could say helped you the most to develop into the disciplined athlete that you kind of are, well, at least that this sport requires?
that's a good question. I would say a lot of it is the way I was raised up, right? Obviously, doing martial arts your entire life kind of instills in you to do the things that martial arts and high level competition requires if you continue at it and continue going through it. Obviously, like I mentioned, having amazing teammates and friends around that are competing at the highest level, right? Set awesome examples as role models of the hard work, the technical details of paying attention, and the application of it. But yeah, I just kind of say a mix of those two, and having the right coaches around, having the right people around, having that continued mindset no matter what kind of stuff comes through your way.
Yeah, like you said, environment, that's a big factor of it. I feel like if you're not comfortable, you're not happy. It's kind of going back to what I said earlier. It's like, oh, I got to do this. Not I get to do this. Not I'm blessed to do this. I have the opportunity to do something more than what I thought I could do. But yeah, environment is key. It's with a lot of things, from fighting, it's even at your job. If you're going to go to your 9 to 5 job and hate, like what you do, but hate who you're doing it with, you're not going to be happy. You're going to be miserable. You're going to come home Monday through Friday, be like, oh man, this sucks. And you're going to dread it. But if you're surrounded by the right people, that feels like that's like 80% of the thing. And the other 10% showing up and the last 10, putting in the hard work and getting it done.
100%. I totally agree. And I think, a couple mindset coaches that work with athletes and stuff, they say exactly what you say. It's not, I got to do it, it's I get to do it. Right. And that mindset helps with high level competitors, not just martial arts, with, other sports too. Like these guys work with, like basketball athletes, with, football athletes, wrestling athletes, it just
Right.
translates everywhere. So I totally agree. And yeah, environment's everything.
All right. Now that we know your life is basically live, breathe, talk, and sleep mixed martial arts, are there any other hobbies that you kind of got in your back pocket, or anything you just like to do on your free time that isn't related to martial arts, or is it just kind of just martial arts is everything?
I think I'm recently realizing the lack of non-martial arts things in my life. I all my friends' families, they all know, right? It's
Mm,
almost all martial arts, you know, which is great because I'm so passionate in it, and I think that helps me be, to the level that I'm at. But yeah, I mean, I definitely would like to. I've been trying to branch out, right? So one thing I'm trying to do unsuccessfully is trying to learn golf. So we'll see how I look at the end of the year. But other than that, just spending time with friends and family. Going out. You know, one thing when you compete, not compete, sorry, when you train so hard and so much, obviously your appetite builds up. So I love eating. I love, eating good food, and,
Yeah.
just being able to do that with friends and family. But yeah, I mean, definitely the big thing, if you're telling me non-martial arts thing, is trying to get better at golf, with the keyword trying, just because if friends or family hear this and they're like, nah, he's not any better. It's like, I'm, yeah. So,
Yeah, I get you. I'm no good at golf. I don't think I've ever stepped foot on I don't even know what it's called, golf range, golf course.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy because they say a lot of the technique is similar to like throwing a punch with your hips and everything like that. And I'm like, all my athleticism must have gone to martial arts, because no other sport it applies to.
Oh man, yeah, I wouldn't know what to do if they told me you get $100,000 if you hit this 100 yards. I'd be like, nah, man, give it to the next person. I'm not even gonna be close to doing it.
We're on the
Um,
same boat, brother.
you said you like food. Everybody loves food. I myself, big fanatic, if you couldn't tell. What kind of dishes, do you kind of go to after you're done cutting weight, or when you're not cutting weight? What do you kind of like to daddle in?
Oh, you're telling me to pick. That's tough. I mean, if you put something in front of me, most likely I'm gonna enjoy it. I can't even name it. It's just like, sushi, burger, pizza, steak. By the time I go through it, you're gonna be like, that's everything.
You're
But
diverse. There's
I,
nothing wrong with that, man.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I enjoy eating. I enjoy eating good food. So obviously, if the food is really good, then I'll enjoy it. But even if it's just average, from McDonald's, I'll
Right.
say it's great.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny because I didn't hear about this place until I talked to Carlos, your brother. But he's like, "Yo, the best pizza place around is Pequod's," and
Oh, brother.
had no idea. I lived here for so long, and and finally when I went, I was like, "This is a game changer." So like I would say every week, you know, maybe like at a random time throughout the week, I'll think about Pequod's, and I'm like, man, it's kind of a far drive, but sometimes I give it and I make the drive there.
Yeah, next time you talk to Carlos, tell him I told you to ask him about our little adventure to Pequot. It's quite the story, not one for me to
Okay.
say out loud, but oh man, he
Off
loves telling
camera.
that story.
Okay, okay. I'll ask him about it.
For sure, brother. All right, man. That's kind of about everything I had for you. Thank you again for your time. Really thankful and blessed that you took the time out of your day to come talk to us. Always thankful. And if you're ever interested in doing this again sometime, shoot a message and we'll get this locked and loaded and ready to roll.
Absolutely. I appreciate you.
Of course, brother. Take it easy.
You too.